Every year leaves artifacts behind. Some you keep, others you bury. Don't enter a new year while carrying the ruins of the previous one, which is why you need to evaluate it, tweak your goal-setting approach, and do a quick reset. This will help put things into perspective, what worked, what didn't, and how to plan the next move. In July, I read this book called Tiny Experiments by the neuroscientist Anne-Laure Leconf, and it completely changed my approach to goals. So in this video, we will look at why linear goals don't work, what you can do instead, and how to review this year and conduct a mindful reset. Let's begin. 4 years ago, I wanted to become a violinist. Of course, I didn't know where to begin, so I planned to practice every single day. But it wasn't that simple. I was simultaneously studying design in university, trying to improve my Turkish, starting to learn French, getting into calisthenics, and trying to keep up with my reading list in psychology, philosophy, and literature. And guess what? I stopped learning the violin. And not just that, of course I graduated, but I stopped improving my languages. My workout regimen was very stagnant and my reading was very sloppy. Not being able to keep up with my non-human standards, I was in a constant emotional battle with two conceptions of myself. The ideal potential, who can theoretically juggle all these endeavors effortlessly, and the one who couldn't, because he was being overwhelmed. Most people approach a new year with similar resolutions, like I will get shredded, learn the piano, I will wake up at 5 AM every single day, I will read 30 books. They obviously don't work. Humans aren't linear, we are not machines. We are emotional, contextual creatures influenced by a number of things like seasons, sleep, stress, hormones, relationships, and even the weather. Linear goals, like SMART goals, they depend on a version of yourself that will supposedly exist on a specific timeline. But that won't be the case, which is the first problem of linear goals, is that a linear goal assumes you will be the same person every single day. But one emotional dip, one unexpected event, or like one stressful week, and the entire goal collapses. And then you blame yourself. And the second problem is that linear goals stimulate fear and perfectionism. Starting something new can be overwhelming when it's outside our comfort zone. Because we're inexperienced, we're not sure where to begin. Sometimes even the amount of options could lead to analysis paralysis. And the final problem is that they ignore feedback loops. Real change isn't a straight line. It's iterative, adaptive, evolving. You try something, you fail, you learn, you adjust. You try something again, you fail, you learn, you reconfigure. You try it again, you succeed, etc. You discover something new, unexpected, which could shift your direction. The moments you fail aren't supposed to have a lot of emotional significance. They are simply data points. This is how you become comfortable with uncertainty. This is how biological systems grow and even how creativity works. But linear goals don't allow recalibration. They break because they demand perfection when life demands adaptation. Keep in mind that, as Anne-Laure reminds us, our goals are sometimes not even our own. We borrow them from our friends, from celebrities, and what we expect our family or even society expects from us. French philosopher René Girard called this phenomenon mimetic desire. We desire something because we see others desiring it. In other words, our goals mimic the goals of others. It's weird, isn't it? Okay, so linear goals are bad. What do we do instead? This is where we turn to experimentation. First, you observe. You take a step back and look at your life. What has been working so far, allowing you to grow, and what hasn't? What made you feel alive, and what drained you? What do you want more of in your life, and what do you want less of? You can also write down your successes and failures, and underneath each one, why you think you succeeded, why you think you failed, some thoughts, feelings, and more crucially, what were the conditions that led to each outcome? For example, one of my failures this year is my inconsistency with uploading videos. The reason for that, I found, is because I wasted a lot of time worrying about perfecting things. That and occasionally binging, scrolling, and wasting away, which is due to a number of fears and a lack of commitment. They're all connected in a way. And I'm currently using this information to reverse these habitual patterns. And one of my successes this year is in calisthenics. I unlocked the front lever, one arm pull-up, and a 90-degree hold. And the reason for that is because I consistently followed the necessary progressions, even after failing to a lot. I pushed more every time, and I fueled every workout with cold rage, which is a great outlet. You see, your observations will give you enough data to see the contrast between the areas of your life you want more of, that give you a reason to wake up and grow, and the areas of your life you want to avoid, that slow you down and pull you back. Next, you hypothesize. Based on what you've observed, you will form a simple hypothesis. And every hypothesis begins with a research question. Here, you are simply exploring your potential with genuine curiosity, asking yourself, will I be more energized if I woke up earlier or not? What will happen if I do this or add that? Will I become more productive if I try this approach? For example, if you think that your sleep is terrible, you might begin by asking yourself, how can I make quality sleep a part of my daily life? Or maybe if I slept 15 minutes earlier, I might see a difference. Or maybe if I set a specific time to sleep and wake, I will see a difference, etc. You see, your question will prompt a maybe, not a baby. Don't overthink it. It should simply be an idea you want to be put to the test. Don't try to perfect the hypothesis. Just think of or write down whatever comes natural. Just follow your instinct and the direction your curiosity is pointing to. Now you design the experiment, the fun part. You'll take your hypothesis and put it in this extremely simple format. I will, action for duration. For example, I will meditate for 10 minutes every morning for the next 10 days. Or I will practice the piano for 2 hours 3 times a week for the next 2 weeks. Or I will do yoga for 15 minutes after waking up for the next 5 days. Keep it simple, realistic, and time-bound. This is basically your pact, as Anne-Laure calls it, your precious personal pact. Here's a real example I did. In June, I wanted to film myself outdoors, but I felt so much resistance that the very thought of it gave me a lot of anxiety, mainly the part where other people see me filming myself. So what I did was this. I created the smallest possible version of this goal. My experiment was this. I will upload one indoor post to Instagram for 1 day. And then I did it. It felt so easy and fun that I had done it within an hour. And then I asked myself what I learned from this experience. And here's what I wrote. 1. It was easier than I thought. 2. The process of taking photographs, writing a short story, and editing is fun and engaging. And 3. It didn't burn me out. Doing this gave me enough confidence to expand this experiment into the outdoors. And that's what I did. 3 days later, I created the second experiment. I will upload one outdoor post to Instagram for 1 day. This one was a bit more difficult, especially the part where I had to film myself and other people were looking, but I nonetheless did it. Because I was already outside, outdoors, I wasn't gonna just go back home. And here's what I wrote. I confirmed the same learnings from the previous experiment. For a moment, I was very hesitant to photograph myself when I saw other people looking at me, even though they were very far, but I got around that, and I succeeded in taking the photographs and uploaded them to Instagram. Okay, so far you have reviewed your year, observed which areas in your life needs tweaking, created a hypothesis, and designed an experiment. And now this is the final part. You just run the experiment. There's no magic trick. You just go and do it. It's very easy. And while you're conducting this tiny experiment, you will collect data to see how it feels and how it's going. Now, you might ask yourself, how do I know if my experiment is a good one? And a good way to know is to see if it's appropriate, exciting, and doable. Anne-Laure calls this the triple check. First, is it appropriate? Is it the wisest course of action to do right now? Make sure it aligns with your current priorities. And is it exciting? If it's not exciting, then what are you really after here? You really have to... Your experiment has to be something you're curious about in the first place, something you really want to explore, that you really don't know much about, but you want to explore it. Lack of excitement might be due to fear, boredom, or irritation, or maybe it just doesn't align with what you think is fun. And finally, is it doable? Is it practical? Is it something that you can actually do? So if your experiment is appropriate, but it's not exciting and not doable, then you simplify the experiment as much as needed to a point where it's actually doable and probably exciting. If your experiment is really not doable, not exciting, and not appropriate, then maybe this isn't the right area to be playing with right now, or exploring or experimenting with. Which means that you have to observe other areas of your life and hypothesize and experiment from there. And the final step is to reflect and iterate. You've done the experiment, now you write down how it felt and what you learned from it. And if there were any resistances, how did you respond to them, emotionally or cognitively, and so on. A good experiment requires multiple trials to confirm that the results were not just due to chance, but due to the experiment. So at this point you either persist, pause, or pivot, which is basically either sticking with the experiment, trying something else completely different, or just adjusting something or tweaking something within the experiment. If you think that the experiment was a success and you enjoyed it so much that you think it aligns with your life, then you can simply persist and iterate the experiment as long as you see fit. And eventually you will see the compound interest of its iteration. Or you pause the experiment if you thought that the data you've collected strongly suggests a different course of action. If, for example, the experiment was negatively affecting your physical or mental health, or if there is no joy or clear value in continuing this experiment. Or you can pivot, okay, which is just you tweak something in the experiment just to fit the data you've collected. And a key thing to ask here is, what part of the experiment can be adjusted so that I can keep learning and growing under changing circumstances? This is basically it. You have your pact, your curious commitment to testing yourself. I found it effective because, well, it's a personal pact, something between you and yourself, and because it's simple, repeatable, and it focuses mainly on output, like publish 3 articles within 3 months rather than outcome, like get 3,000 subscribers within 3 months. Let's say you want to become an athlete and you tell yourself that you're gonna work out 5 times a week and then you stop. It will feel like a failure and you may go down the path of self-sabotage. But with tiny experiments, failure is just data that shows you where you want to go next. Which is why experiments give you the necessary confidence to get started, because there is nothing to perfect. There is no wrong choice or bad result. You never fail, you just gather data and you learn and you iterate. But all you have to do is simply show up. Now it's time for the full reset. I like to think of this part as a strategic preparation for the coming year, like cleaning and setting the stage before the next play. I think it's especially useful if you're in a rut, or if your environment isn't in the right condition to prompt the right actions, or if you're stuck in some dopaminergic brain rot loop. It would be in your best interest to begin the year fresh and undistracted, don't you think? So you can do this part before or after the experiment. It really is, it's up to you. The reset splits into 3 parts: the external, a digital reset, and an internal reset. I think the middle one isn't that necessary, but yeah. First, the external. Your environment is the invisible hand that shapes your behavior. So, you know how to do this part. You clean it up, you unclutter your desk, you remove unnecessary objects, and perhaps even revamp or reorganize it in a new way that reflects your current motivations for the new year. Next, you do the same for your digital environment. Clean, unclutter, delete unnecessary apps, organize your desktop, organize your home screen, etc. Finally, the twofold internal reset, which is the most important, but perhaps the most difficult. The first part of the internal reset has to do with your physiology. I call it the fundamentals. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because a lot of people don't really have this already set in their lives. And they're very important, obviously. The fundamentals are simply consistent and timely sleep, proper nutrition, and regular exercise. I'm not going to dive deep into these now, but make sure you're giving your body what it demands or what it needs. You can also experiment with these, by the way. Sleep and wake around the same times, eat well, take your supplements, hydrate properly, and move your body. Physical exercise doesn't necessarily have to be going to the gym, but it would be good if you did. You can simply do yoga or home workouts as long as you stimulate your muscles. The second and final part of this internal reset has to do with resetting and strengthening your neuropsychology. Basically, you begin by dedicating an entire day to practice distancing, psychological distancing, and a form of mindfulness, which I will talk about now. So, throughout the day, I want you to constantly remember to notice. Notice the impulse that rises within you to do almost anything, but mostly to check your phone or indulge in anything you know is unnecessary. Anything that suppresses your executive function, your reason and your will, because it's almost automatic. Once you notice yourself automating, reaching for your phone, you stop yourself. This tiny stop has the potential to undo a number of negative habitual patterns. All you have to do is simply iterate it. Eventually you will be able to feel the impulse as it rises, but you don't react. You simply observe it, you feel how it's trying to tamper with your reason, with your will, how it's trying to dim your logic. Every time an impulse rises and you stop and you refocus on the task at hand is like doing a rep. Just like doing reps in push-ups or pull-ups, this is like a cortical rep, a mental rep. Every time you succeed in doing this and repeat it, you are literally strengthening the seat of willpower in your brain, the anterior cingulate cortex. Then you can expand and extend this awareness into other things that appear to you, like random sensations, your breathing patterns, and the posture of your thoughts, and how each of these influence each other. If you take this to its conclusion, you will be basically practicing some form of metacognitive mindfulness. I don't know if that's a thing, which I will probably dedicate an entire video for. So, to summarize, don't set linear goals, they will literally thin you out. Observe your own life like a curious anthropologist. Hypothesize and test your hypotheses by designing and running experiments. Reflect on your results, persist, pause or pivot, and iterate as you see fit, and do a full reset to prime your environment and your mind for focused growth. Well, that's it. I hope you found something useful in this video, and if you want to talk more about these things or anything else, you can drop a comment and I will be there. Alright, you got this.